6 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. Please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on the agenda is introduction of citizens. Officer Beal, could you start for us, please?
Justin Beal.
Susan Sharper. Diane Lighty. Marcus Bergman.
Tim Schlotter.
Angie Stinson. Rachel Bruce. Joanna Cook.
Matt Sisson.
Ava Moore. Audrey Osmond.
Zion McDonald.
Charlie Barber.
Ted Kirshner.
Harry Kester. Jennifer Holbrook. Carrie Shear.
Gary Wansar.
Amanda Uhl.
Greg Rice.
Eva Carpenter.
Brett Carpenter. John Clausen.
Cheryl Prentice, new son.
Okay, welcome to tonight's meeting. Next on the agenda is comments from citizens. Again, this is the East Noble School Board business meeting. This is a public comment section. We ask that you act in a professional and business-like manner. Please state your name, address, and comment the topic that you would like to comment on. This part of the meeting will be 20 minutes in length. At this time, we have 7 people. Yes, 7 people signed up. So we'll extend for 1 minute. We'll give everyone 3 minutes, and we'll do a total of 21 minutes for this section. All statements are to be addressed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question individual board members. Respect what others have to say, and please do not interrupt during their comment session. This is not a two-way conversation or open debate. It is for individual comments that the board will take under advisement. Please use the podium at the front for your comments, and if you have any materials to hand out, please put them in the basket on that table and we'll collect them afterwards. So first up will be John Clausen. Mr. Clausen, please.
I'm sorry, I signed up for last.
Mr. Clausen, I've called your name. You've got 3 minutes, sir.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I hope everybody's having a great night. John Clausen, Rome City, Indiana. I'm just here to ask some questions. So thanks for putting out the board packet. Seems to me that it didn't have the budget in it. Is there a reason for that?
It's a public hearing, sir.
Yeah, I've got 3 minutes, so I can wait 3 minutes to get an answer. Is there no answer?
This is not a two-way conversation, sir. Do you have any?
All right,
further
very good.
comments,
So
or
the
do
next
you
question
wanna
is why is it
continue
that
on?
other boards, for instance, like North Manchester, they make their public comment period interactive? That's really a very good way to interact with the public and the voter. Just curious why it appears as though you're fearful to do that. Any comment? All right. So the last question I guess I have then would be, why do other boards have 2 public readings of new policies and they put them up on the screen and they let the public read it? But this board sees fit to keep it a secret. Any comment? Okay. All right, well, that's all I have, but I guess I would rather just stand here for my 3 minutes.
Yep.
quiet here than church. I hope you guys have a good evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next on the list is April Moore. Ms. Moore?
Hello, April Moore, I live here in Kendallville. I think it's important to keep at heart with any conversation with parents and community members, the vision of East Noble and why teachers and educators do what they do. The vision is East Noble School Corporation students will be inspired as lifelong learners, engaged by a rigorous, relevant, and innovative curriculum and empowered through collaboration and inclusion to become valuable contributing members to global society. In order to fulfill this vision, our students must be engaged in educational opportunities that expand their way of thinking to others' ideas and beliefs and will assist them whether in college or the job force. I reviewed what I could of the board packet provided, and while I do feel that scores for students in our corporation need improvement, I would also agree that scores statewide need improvement. Due to time constraints, I did not have time to review how Indiana stacks up against other states, however I do plan to do so. I have heard a lot about what is wrong with our school or how parents need to save our school. However, after hearing last month of the students receiving national recognition from the College Board, it got me thinking of all the wonderful opportunities East Noble provides for its students. I appreciate the range of opportunities from the Impact Institute to earning college credits. While it's important to prepare our students for higher education, it is just as important to prepare them to be members of the job force. Not all students are destined for college right away, or at all. Our district falls into a healthcare shortage area, therefore it's important that we are preparing students to become members of the healthcare field. The Impact Institute's Health Occupations Education and Primary Healthcare programs offer students an opportunity to learn what it takes to work in healthcare. I have experienced working with and being a patient of these students on multiple occasions. Their professionalism in all instances showed me the dedication of the instructors and the students. The many other impact programs such as HVAC, welding, and automotive services will teach our youth that working in the service sector is important to both the global and local economy. Programs such as criminal justice will prepare students to go directly into the workforce or further education. By offering both dual credit and AP classes, East Noble is giving students a jump start into their college career. Utilizing these classes will help save the student time and money while earning their college degree. It is exciting to see that AP scores are improving thanks to the Advanced Placement Teacher Investment Program through Notre Dame. With that, I just want to take a moment to thank the board, teachers, and all other professionals within East Noble School District for their hard work and dedication to fulfilling the mission of East Noble. Thank you.
Next on the list is Eva Carpenter. Ms. Carpenter?
This is my speech. This is for you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Write it down if you want to. False accusation by Dave Pine. Dave Pine made some false accusations. He said that he was called racist. No one called him racist. No one called him racist. How ironic. Black people don't like to be called the N-word by white people, but they Pine vote to have students read a book that calls blacks the N-word. So he thinks that it's okay for black people to call the N-word, but he doesn't think it is okay to be called a racist. You get it? He think it's okay for black people to be called the N-word, but he doesn't think it's okay to be called a racist. Also, Dave Pine doesn't want to be called a groomer, but wants children to read about masturbation. Yep, Dave Pine doesn't want to be called a groomer, but he wants children to read about masturbation. He thinks that it's okay to give my children homework about masturbation, but he doesn't want to be called a groomer. No one call you a racist. No one call you a groomer. No one. I think you have a very, very bad conscience. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next on the list is Greg Rice. Mr. Rice.
Hello, Greg Rice from Fort Wayne. I don't have a prepared address, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it. The last meeting, I addressed the board and I made a statement to which, after my address was over, later on in the meeting, Mrs. Grimaud claimed that an untrue statement was made. Now, I reviewed the video of last month's meeting, of what I said and all the other speakers said, and what Mrs. Grimaud said. Thank you, by the way, John, for recording these. These come in very handy. I was the only one that made the statement in question. Mrs. Grimaud, towards the end of the meeting, where I did not have a chance to defend what I said because of your rules of not engaging back and forth. See, that's a problem, folks. That's a real problem. She accused me, not by name, but she said someone made an untrue statement and she named the statement. I'm not going to go into detail. You can go back and review the video of the last meeting. It's all there. When she said that, I was powerless. I had to sit right there and listen to me being called a liar. Okay? Is that funny? Do you guys find that funny? I don't like being called a liar. I would encourage anybody who has any question or any common sense to go back to the last meeting and review exactly what I said and the other speakers said. My statement about being denied to review the policy was true. I went on to say that we were only given 1 day. You got to look at the context of what I said. However, I was not afforded the opportunity to defend what I said. That is so unfair. Would any of you like to be called a liar in a public meeting? No, she did not use those words. She said I made an untrue statement. She didn't address my name, but she said someone made that statement. That was me. I was the only guy that made that statement. And I don't appreciate it, Teresa. Now, I would like to give you some time. I know maybe we can go over our 3 minutes here if you will allow me, but would you please have this open dialogue with me in open session, just like when you called me a liar in open session.
Your time's up. Thank you for your comments this evening. Next on the list is Brett Carpenter. Mr. Carpenter, please.
Okay, so at the last board meeting, Dave Pine attacked the public with many false accusations without us being able to respond. I'll respond to a few of the deceitful statements. Mr. Pine said, most of this group has been polite and civil, some have not. For those of you who have not, that is your choice. That's just completely disingenuous. You violate the law, you allow sexually explicit material in our children's homework, but you complain that we're not polite. Let's be honest with the community. Your position that is our choice to not be polite was only taken after the county prosecutor and the county sheriff got involved. You were forced into that opinion by our legal authorities, not because you respect the Constitution. Mr. Pine also said this small group believes that their agenda is best for all. Again, completely deceptive. It is the board who is the small group who believes their agenda is best for all. I only think I know what is best for my children when it comes to what sexual material they read and at what age. My position has always been that each parent knows what is best for their own children, and each parent should be able to decide for their own children. The board, however, believes that they know what is best for all and puts sexually explicit material into the curriculum that encourages children to masturbate. I only want to decide for my children, and I want each parent to decide for their own children. But the board believes their agenda is best for everyone. The board has decided that my children are going to be sexualized whether I like it or not. The board thinks they have more say in the moral upbringing of my children than I have. Mr. Pine said, nor am I a racist, pedophile, groomer, Nazi, rubber stamp, or un-American, and I have been called all those terms over the last few months. Just lies and slander. I have been at every board meeting in the last few months, and I never heard anyone call any board member a racist, pedophile, groomer, or Nazi. I did call board members un-American, but that was because of your disdain for the Constitution and your contempt for traditional American values. Giving children obscene literature and violating the Constitution is un-American. Oh, and you were not called a Nazi at the board meeting. That remark was meant for us by a citizen who was on your side. So let's be clear. Mr. Pine and other board members are the culprits, not us for defending our children and the children of the community. Now, someone came up to me and said, well, there's an opt-out. You're trying to that. There was no opt-out for my child when she got that book. That was a required course. I spoke to the principal and she said, this is what is going to be taught. I couldn't give my daughter a different book. I had to pull her out of that class.
Yeah.
So don't pretend like there's some way she can get out of it. The school is forcing on children sexually explicit material against the parents' wishes. It's a shame.
Thank you for your comments. Next on the list is Tim Slaughter. Mr. Slaughter.
My name's Tim Slaughter. I live at 242 South Park Avenue, and I'm here to praise the board. I've listened to this stuff over and over. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you put up with it. The only persons or people I've heard call names are some of the citizens here. I don't understand it. This is above all a business meeting. They set the rules as to what you can say, whether they reply or not. We sat there and listened to Mr. Durbin say right at the beginning, this is not a two-way conversation, it is a one-way conversation. And yet the first person up here tried to involve you guys in speaking. I don't care what other school boards do. Our school board's doing the right thing. I praise all of you guys, you're doing a great job. As far as all the groomers and stuff like that goes on, I got news for you. If you look up who's in the news and you look at actual statistics, it's not what they're being taught that grooms them. Most groomers are in religion. And I'm going to say this right now. I was taught the Pledge of Allegiance right here in the East Noble School Corporation by a lady named Mrs. Flickinger. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember her or not. But she taught me the pledge without the under God in there. There was no under God. That was added in the 50s. So this whole thing where you guys are trying to turn this into a theocracy isn't going to work. The Constitution is not a theocracy. The Constitution tells you what it is, and nothing in a school board pertains to the Constitution. This is a business meeting for the people of the East Noble School Board District. I applaud you guys for putting up with this stuff. Thank you.
Next on the list is Zion, I think, Williams, is that right?
McDonald.
McDonald, I'm sorry, I couldn't read your last name very well.
You're good. I'm terrible with handwriting anyway. So my glasses broke earlier today, so I'm about to give the coolest speech ever. All right, so thank you, Mr. President. This is Zion McDonald. I reside at 1409 North Lima Road in Kendallville. I want to first of all echo sentiments offered during the last board meeting by April Moore with regards to the actions that the school board and the staff took to protect our students in wake of the pollution from the wildfires and the extreme heat. I just want to start with an acknowledgement. I know that no one on this board joined to interface the real challenges that face our schools in providing the next generation the wherewithal that needs to succeed with the national culture war. I've been here for a while. Of course, the first time you guys heard from me was because they were trying to ban the GSA, and then it turned into a book. And the thing is that I'm just a member of the public, so I can't imagine what you guys went through. Fact of the matter is, Mr. President, no matter how hard some have tried to portray everything this board does in an ideological light, I do not believe any member of this board is themselves an ideologue. We might agree or disagree on certain hot-button issues, but any of the controversy that this board finds itself in, with rare exceptions, is more or less the result of an outspoken sect who was engaged in what I can only describe as an ongoing act of political projection. As sympathetic as I may be to those who hold minority and controversial viewpoints, the rhetoric used against board members separately and jointly has often been patently unjustified. The occasional disruptive behavior exhibited here, accusations of grooming, propagandizing on policies that haven't even been released yet, are equally patently unjustified. I wanted to offer my remarks, commending Mr. Pine for speaking out, and I ultimately encourage each and every one of you to do the same, because ultimately, no matter how outspoken any side of any controversial issue is, your voice is the one with the most weight. So honestly, that's all. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good meeting.
That concludes our public comment session, so we'll get into the rest of our agenda. Board, next on the agenda is minutes of the August 23rd, 2023 board meeting. You had a chance to review any questions or comments.
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as presented by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Truelove. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Okay, board, next is claims of September 20th, 2023. You had a chance to review. Any questions or comments on those?
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes or the claims as presented by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. That brings us to our first personnel item. Board, we, in our packet had resignations, retirements. I don't believe there was any terminations in the packet. You had a chance to review. Is there a motion on those recommendations?
I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion to accept as presented by Mr. Pine, seconded by Mr. Truelove. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Reassignments.
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve reassignments as presented by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. That brings us to new hires.
I'll make a motion to approve written.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve new hires as presented by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Pine. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. That brings us to leave request.
I'll make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second.
For leave request, we have a motion to approve as presented by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. And then last on this list board is salary change. The administration would recommend a salary and benefit update for Kevin Irons, part-time middle school athletic director, as presented.
I'll make the motion as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve as presented by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Pine. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us down to the instruction part of our agenda. Dr. Grimaud?
Yes, we're asking, actually each year, our principals must submit a school improvement plan to the state and the IDOE. And the board received those a few weeks ago to go through. I did not have any feedback on those. And those plans are due to the state by October 6th. So I am asking that you are, actually I'm recommending approval of the school improvement plans for the 23-24 school year.
I'll make a motion to accept the school improvement plans as written for our 23-24 school year.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the improvement plans as presented by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries.
The next item is action to approve EF tours. Dr. Forrest has been working on this, so I'm gonna let her share the information.
So you have two handouts. The first one is for a trip. We're asking for approval to partner with EF, which stands for Education First. And we have two trips planned for the beginning of June for our juniors and seniors that are interested. They will be visiting Panama Canal. This one's a STEM focus, specifically engineering and biology, just to go down and they would go with one of our staff members. And then the second trip, which is actually the same week, would be going to Spain. They're gonna go to Barcelona and Madrid. And this one's more of an arts focus. They're going to be visiting museums, listening to music, and it's bent more towards the art type of student. So we're just asking for approval for both of those trips.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are they for current seniors in June?
Yes.
Or the, okay.
Current.
Seniors in June.
However, if there's a lack of interest, we opted for the option to include sophomores.
Okay.
So there's flexibility in that.
Okay. Thank you.
And I have a question. Or I assume it's the cost is funded all totally by the families?
There's three options. So it's family funded, they have scholarships, and then they can do fundraisers as well. So say for example that you wanted to donate money, but you wanted it dispersed equally to students. EF handles all of the payment options, so they would just divvy it up. And then part of it is you get a login with each student's name, and then they can keep track of how much they still owe. So
Do you have an estimated cost?
about $3,000 for each one.
Is that all inclusive?
Yes. And additionally, what's nice about it is, so if we get 6 students to sign up, one of our teachers gets to go, and that trip is fully funded by EF. So that was also something we thought would be nice because, so for example, the Panama trip, one of our science teachers is interested in going on that, so, yeah.
Any other questions, board members?
Are these for kids that are just in the pathway, or is it
No,
open
it's
to
for
the whole?
anyone.
Okay.
So part of it, the reason we chose Spanish speaking also was because we wanted students that are taking Spanish to also have the option to go, so we were kind of hitting a double whammy. This company sends students almost around the world. I mean, there's obviously places they don't go, but we got a list of different options, and I just wanted one that kind of went with our STEAM initiative.
Yeah.
So these were the two that were the most feasible, but also gave us the most amount of interest for students.
Any other questions, board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the tours for the 2024 trip to Spain and Canada.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those the same? Motion carries.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is State of the Corporation address. And board, this presentation is actually for you. It's a modified version of what will happen on October 11th. The reason for that is much of the information you've either already been given or you will see in our budget review this tonight. So there's also full documents that you will get that will accompany this at some point when we have them all cleaned up and ready to go, since it's been an ongoing process. So feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with finances, and Mr. Leach will take it.
Sure, so, board, the first slide that we come to, we'll go over the current budget, which is the 2023 budget. The educational fund budget was adopted and approved at $25,688,468. The operations fund at $8,466,122. Debt service, which is for the Transportation Technology Center, at $1,589,425. And the referendum debt for the East Noble Middle School construction is $3,162,000. So again, that's the current 2023 budget. There are other slides, finance slides that would be in here or will be in here for the October 11th date, but most of those you're going to see in the budget presentation later. So in order to save time, I didn't see a need to duplicate some of those slides. So the next slide, you'll see an enrollment breakdown by the district. And what you'll see and notice by the bar graphs there is the enrollment per school year. And just to note here that you can see the declining enrollment over the past several years. The top line is the free and reduced percentages, which is hovering right around 50%. There was a dip during the COVID timeframe because individuals were not required to fill out free and reduced applications because the federal government had made that free and available to all students at that time. So that's why you see some of the dip there. The middle line there, the pink line, is our special ed percentage, hovering right around 20%. And then the bottom line, the red line, is the ELL percentage, somewhere around 4 or 5%. So just kind of shares a little bit of our demographics of our student and our population here in East Noble School Corporation. Moving on to the next slide is information that was pulled off the DOE website, and that's the movement of our students. We'll get into more of this as we go through the next few slides. We have some technical difficulties there.
Let's just let you know that one.
Huh. So this slide here highlights, the yellow highlighted there is East Noble School Corporation. That shows a net loss of transfer students. So every year we have students that transfer into our district, we have students transfer out of our district. And the net loss of those students is 275 students. And then the next slide will show where many of those students are going. A lot of those students have been for years, St. John's, St. Mary's, Lakewood Park, Oak Farm, other school options within our taxing district Lakewood Park is not what the other ones are, and so forth. So it kind of shows where some of the students are transferring to. The next slide kind of has a breakdown. The total of 502 students that are transferring out is broken down to 190 being choice scholarship, 264 going to public parent choice, 45 to charter schools, and then 3 to other public options. We also have 227 transferring in from outside our district, which then equates to the net loss of 275 students. So that's the demographics, that's where the students are or where they're going. And that's all I have for the financial portion of that. I move it over to Amy with the academic data.
All right.
Yep, pull them out.
So, SAT scores, these are our, this year's, well, it would be last year's scores, because it's in the spring, but, so you can see ERA, it's, evidence-based reading and writing, that's what that stands for. So we had 49.5% of our students pass, which is up from 2022. And then in math, we just took a tiny little bit of a dip. So there's that one. Our graduation rate has gone up, which is fantastic. That's something we always strive for. I mean, getting those kids across the line is important to us because, okay, that just obviously sets up their future. So we're always chasing 100%, but we're glad that it's up 3.3% this year. So our AP exams, we want kids to be in AP classes. We want them getting those credits, that dual credit. We went up, as Charlie spoke at the last board meeting, we had more kids that passed this year than ever. That's fantastic. That just shows across the board that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing in the high school. I mean, and you could see the reading and writing was higher, which he spoke about that last time, that those kids did specifically well in that test. So it makes sense that they both would line up. So here we are, the state average is in the top red. We are unfortunately down at the bottom, and we know this. We continue to build this and put new things in place, and typically when you start a new program, like we did guided reading, we have all these components in place. You'll see a little dip because there's a learning curve for the teachers, so we anticipate more growth this year.
That's terrible.
This is, this slide is an example of the state test. So years ago it was iStep, and then they switched it to iLearn. So you can see in 2015 where there's a big drop, that's where the test changed. So as they changed the test, the scores have dropped. Then in 2018 they changed it again, so then they dropped. So then now we just finally get going, and we've learned how to master this test, and they're going to change it again next year. So we anticipate now we have to start back over, but we'll get there. You'll also see that big dip in the COVID year. 2020 is missing, but as you can imagine, 2021 there's a big dip because of COVID, and we're still recovering from that.
All right, so what you have all seen is that we have a need for change. We certainly know that, we recognize it, and we have many things in place, and we're planning for many changes ahead. So we want to first talk about during 21 to 23 so far what we have been able to accomplish. We recognize like there were many issues that we needed to address. The board was so kind for us to be able to do a climate audit to really tap in to see what are some of the things that are going on in our district that we need to address, and we have done that. And I'm not gonna read each one of these, you have the list in front of you, but really quickly, we've done a lot with tier 2 and 3 interventions with kids that are struggling, whether it's behavior or academics. You've seen some presentations on that. Digital citizenship curriculum. Student Voice Committee has been key in giving us feedback on knowing what are the issues coming from them. We have heightened our marketing efforts, and we're working, and we also established Alumni Association. We knew that teacher retention was an issue as well, so we increased salary and benefits, instructional aides, we increased their hours. We also offered health insurance coverage for them. We are now in the process, we actually just implemented an exit survey for any withdrawing students, so we can get some feedback there. What is it that we can do a little bit differently? Obviously, book rental was eliminated from the state, but that was something that wasn't under our control, but it was a good thing for parents, so good for that. We also created a Knights Academy for K through 2 for students that are really struggling with behaviors as well. So strategic planning, that has been in the process for over a year. We're gonna kind of walk through what we have done and where we're going. So it started with the school board creating a new vision. What you saw on the website was our vision and mission. It will be changing and being updated soon. But inspiring students to be lifelong learners and positive contributing members of their community. Also then the mission was created, inspiring excellence by providing the foundation where students collaborate, think critically, and problem solve through engaging opportunities that empower them to pursue their passions and lifelong success. It was very important to many of the administrators that we keep the inspire, engage, empower that we're kind of known for, and so we kept that as more of a motto, but we embedded that into our mission. So then came along a discussion about our graduates. Where do we want our graduates to be, and what attributes do we want them to possess when they walk outside of the school doors for the final time? We know we need critical thinkers. We need them to be literate, not just in the English language and reading and writing, but financial literacy is important and digital literacy is important. We want them to be responsible and respectful citizens. We want them to be good communicators, collaborators. We want them to have true grit and be willing to push through any adversity. And we also want to make sure that they're acting with integrity. So when we created those, then we also decided, hey, we need to be committed to this. So these are the commitment statements that we have to our students, that we're gonna make sure we're providing critical thinking opportunities, experiences that will enhance their skills and foster that respect and responsibility. We're also gonna make sure we provide an environment that's conducive to various forms of communicating and collaborating. We are also committed to support and strategies and guidance to successfully navigate challenging and diverse environments with integrity. We kind of already mentioned that. And providing foundational opportunities to develop strong financial, civic, and a digital footprint. And we talked a lot about the digital footprint last year. So then we develop a profile of a graduate. So each grade level, we will be addressing each one of these attributes on the left side of what we are doing, what the students are going to be doing, what we'll be providing for them to make sure that we are addressing that attribute all the way through from kindergarten all the way through to 12th grade. This is a sample of what those exemplars are. Like for communication, students will learn in makerspace to collaborate, share, explore, create new things, and improve things that already exist. So there's got to be a lot of communication there. So grit, students will participate in math and reading curriculum that sets small goals and deadlines for students to develop grit and as they persevere through those goals. And we also have literacy, and like I said, it was digital literacy, financial literacy, and then also the English literacy as well. So we also created this is something that's called systems of support, and we did that. And if you notice, the students are at the core or the center of everything that goes on in our schools. So all of the people that surround it are all an important part of that team. But if you notice, around the students is environment, relationships, and learning. We call those our pillars that surround our students. And when we make decisions, we think critically through all of those pieces. So as you will see, our critical issues were a combination of things that the board came up with and our administrative team came up with, input we had from climate audits, just all of that kind of conversations. And so we put them under each one of our pillars, and we will address them, or we actually went through the strategic plan, and we had lots of people involved, and they were able to sit down and go through each one of these and develop a plan of action. And I know this next slide's very wordy, and I apologize, but I want to give you an idea of what it's gonna look like. There is a plan out there, and you have just a snapshot of it. The topic is on the left side, like, for example, shifting cultural values and expectations, and we put a goal with it. Well, what is our goal? So, East Noble will create a positive, predictable, safe, nurturing environment for all students and staff. And we have our action strategies listed on the right side. And then there's more to these documents because we want to make sure that we're monitoring it. We have the right people involved in that process and monitoring to make sure that is happening. So like that first one, that's a lot of that work that we have been doing with Curtis Slater. So you probably heard a lot of that. We knew that mental health was an issue. We have some things there that we're addressing with mental health, discipline, poverty, and structural challenges. And then on the next slide, goes into the learning, the pillar of learning. So we know we have critical issues there. Class sizes were something I heard about since the day I walked in as a superintendent. And we really, over the last couple of years, worked very, very hard. And I can tell you right now, 89% of our class sizes are under 25. So that's a real plus. We're very excited about that. We have curriculum development. Dr. Corse has worked really hard with a lot of teachers, instructional coaches, working very hard to make sure that we're in alignment. We have a scope and sequence all the way through. There's always professional development that is connected with that. And so constantly working on that piece, and the Indiana Department of Ed is constantly changing too, aren't they? So we knew student motivation was another issue, so we're looking at that, and we're going to work on providing more hands-on opportunities through PBL, which is project-based learning. That could be STEM, that could be STEAM, that could be also Project Leads the Way is what a lot of people hear, so that's all connected. Looking at STEM certification, we're in that process right now. And Dr. Cordes is heading that up, and it takes a lot of work. And when are we thinking about being done? Is it next year?
Next October.
Next October. Okay. And then professional development to make sure all of these things are happening in a timely manner, and making sure we're addressing each and every issue that we have, and making sure we're providing that for our teachers. And relationships was our last critical issue. We would like to make sure that we have all of our parents involved in their child's education as much as possible. We have a goal to have every parent in the school this year, so hopefully we can do that. We have some action strategies to help make that happen. Declining enrollment was a concern. Like I said, we have been increasing our marketing efforts. We did that survey that we discussed. I've been going around we're gonna create some more videos about life is better at East Noble. So we have some things on in the action strategies to be able to make that happen. And then staff sustainability, we know that that's been a concern. We were very pleased this year when we only had 14 new teachers versus 30, I think, last year. So, we're headed in the right direction, we're very excited about that. But there's always more that we just need to keeping an eye on that and making sure we're moving forward. So we are a work in progress, we know that. We have all those critical issues that we are addressing. But what are we doing right now? What are some of the things that we're doing? You heard a lot of the things we've been doing, but this is what we're doing right now. We are obviously the State of the Corporation address. That's coming up in October for the community to participate in and learn more about East Noble and where we're going, what we're headed, how we're headed there, and some initiatives that we're doing. Full steam ahead. We have a sense of urgency that we're really pushing among our schools, and really you saw why. You saw the evidence of where we're at with academics and some other things that we need to address, and we know that. And one of the things that we have done is the Science of Reading cadre. We joined that through the Indiana Department of Education. We started building the foundation last year with small group guided reading. Well, this year we're adding another layer, which is the Science of Reading cadre. It's been going very well. And then, like I said, we just talked about the STEM certification, that all is through a grant. And then we're in the process of creating an educational, East Noble Education Foundation to help support finances and other means. So 23 and beyond, where do we go from here? STEAM, we have been talking a lot about STEM. The Department of Education calls it STEM. We felt like it was very important to add the arts in there, so science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. We have great arts at East Noble. We want to make sure that we merge that with everything else that we're doing on a hands-on opportunity for our kids. And we're going to have a theme that is called Exploring Our Backyard. And Exploring Our Backyard implies Noble County. So we'll give you more information about that on October 11th. The board is already aware of where we're going. Well, why are we going to do this? A few of us had an opportunity to go visit another school corporation down in Talladega County in May, and we saw the evidence of what a hands-on curriculum could do, but it wasn't just that. They tied it to the community. And as you can see up there on the screen, their results were really amazing. Of where they came with their graduation rate. Ours is not like that, thank God. But we still always have work to do. But if you look down at the disciplinary infractions, you can see there was a major reduction there. So we want to be able to bring that to our kids, and we'll talk more about what that looks like at October 11th meeting. So what does STEAM initiative mean for East Noble? We're hoping it means decreased behaviors, increased motivation, increase in student engagement, student achievement, improving those soft skills that are so important for our employers today. And we want to make sure we're leading Indiana in innovative practices to improve student outcomes. So what does that mean for our community? Involvement with our community. There's going to be a lot of input gathered from our community on this STEAM initiative, and we'll share about that in October 11th meeting. We're going to hopefully connect to our student, our pathways to our local careers here. We're going to celebrate what Noble County offers and make sure everybody is aware of it. And again, lead Indiana in innovative practices to improve our community. Again, I have stated over and over again that we are going to have the State of the Corporation address on October 11th at the Transportation and Technology Center at 6 o'clock. We're very excited to be able to offer that. So we'd love for you to all come and be part of this exciting initiative as East Noble moves full steam ahead.
Okay, any questions, board members?
I know it's a lot, sorry.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll move on to our next item. I'm sorry we aren't taking questions at this time. You can ask it afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Business section, Mr. Leach, could you?
Sure. The first item on the agenda is to approve the letter of intent to purchase 4 buses through Curlin Bus Sales. That's information that we discussed in the last discussion at the last meeting. The letter is provided to you in your board packet. The cost of the 4 buses, or the estimated cost of the 4 buses, is $617,843. This would be for 3 conventional buses and 1 special needs bus, and we will be trading in 4 12-year-old buses. Typically, we don't do it in this manner. This is the first time for the letter of intent. The reason for this is the lead time on these buses or these purchases is approximately 14 to 18 months. So in the past, we've been able to order the buses in early January and have them before school starts in August. But to be honest, we just received our 4th bus that we purchased in January of 2022, just within the last few weeks. So we're trying to get ahead of the game. We've worked with vendors, other corporations have done very similar. There is no guarantee really on this piece of paper, other than the fact that they say it will lock in the price, and they say that it will get us in line. And what the document says is this is all pending approval of the budget that you're going to hear tonight, and then potentially adopt in October. So if for some reason the budget were not to be adopted or there were change, there is an out in this letter of intent. So I would ask that you approve this letter of intent for future 2024 bus purchases as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve this presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the bus purchase as presented by Mr. Pine, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is to approve advertisements for E-rate projects. In your packet, you received information that was written by Mr. Rick Williams, who is our network administrator, network manager. Very laid out. These are E-rate projects, so the majority of the funding for this project will come through federal money. It could be 70 or 80%. It depends on what our rate is at that time. So the majority of this is funded through a federal program, and then we have to provide either the 20 or 30% on top of that. So it's customary that we bid this out for internet services. Is one RFP. Another RFP would be for a new firewall. A firewall lasts anywhere from 5 to 8 years. We're currently on year 6, so we're looking to get the ball rolling to get that replaced. And then also the other 2 are for wireless network upgrades for virtually all of our buildings, broken down into 2 categories. So a total of 4 RFPs, internet services, firewall, and then wireless network upgrades. So administration would ask that you approve the advertisement for those projects.
I'll make a motion to approve the advertisement for those projects.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the advertisement for the RFP projects by Mrs. Blackman, seconded by Mr. Truelove. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries.
All right, at this time, board, we'll suspend the regular meeting and open up the public hearing for the 2024 budget. We will start.
Oh, sorry, that's after, sorry.
Thanks for looking out for me. So the 2024 budget, this is a process that starts early in the year, typically late January, early February. Information is gathered through a number of administrators, building principals, central office staff as well, and then combined and really hit hard in May, June, July, August, September, as we finalize the information and put it together in the formats that the state requires. So in this process, on the next slide, you'll see 3 important dates. The first important date is September. That's the wrong one. I'm not sure, you have the wrong one.
I do.
Yep. Here.
Is it the wrong one?
It's the wrong PowerPoint. That's correct. You guys want to sing today? So I'll continue here a little bit as she's pulling up the correct one. There are 3 important dates that you would see on this slide. September 8th, which was a Friday. That's when the budget was advertised per Indiana code on the DLGF website. The Form 3 was advertised, as well as the capital projects and bus replacement plans. And it was also advertised on the East School Corporation website underneath the budget toolbox. So by Indiana code, it has to be advertised at least 10 days prior to the public hearing. So we were in there for a couple additional days. That moves us to tonight, which is September 20th, which is the public hearing on the educational, operational budgets, as well as the CPF and bus replacement plans that were all advertised as discussed. Then from the third important date is going to be October 18th, 2023, in which I plan to bring this budget to you for adoption. Once it is adopted, then it's still the same one.
That's the one you gave me that says 2024 on it.
Why don't you just give me the thing, and I'll plug in.
That's good.
There, that's better. So as we discussed, 3 important dates.
Again.
We will then, no, the dates are of course. The funds we'll be talking about tonight, there are 5 main funds that typically get budgeted. We'll be discussing 4 of them. One fund we will not be budgeting is the rainy day fund. So we will discuss the operational, educational, referendum debt, and debt service funds. In 2019, the state changed from the old general fund, capital projects, transportation, and bus replacement funds to the education operations. Education fund is primary source of revenue is state tuition, which is the number of students that we have in attendance on any or on 2 given count days. One typically in September, which is October this year, and the other one in February. The allowable expenses out of the education fund are all basically all towards academic or student support, which basically is dollars in the classroom, teachers and support within the classroom, as well as building administration. The operations fund is for category 3 expenses, which talks about capital projects, transportation, bus replacement, and then also support staff such as custodial, central office, and so forth. The education fund this year budget is set at $26,962,377. I have broken down a number of categories there. The regular programming, or basically your regular educational staff, is a little over 17 million, just under 17.3 million. The vocational programming that we house, primarily at East Noble High School, such as business, ag, family consumer science, budget $296,350. Your SPED programming is a little over $2 million. Your mediation, summer school, just over $400,000. the vocational and transfer tuition, so the money that is paid on behalf of the students that attend Impact Institute, as well as students that are placed outside our district due to DCS or court mandates, is $480,000. Support services, $1.7 million. That would be such as nurses, counselors, so forth. Curriculum and library, $778,000. Building administration, building principals, assistants, deans, so forth, of $2.2 million. Network support, $1.288 million. And then your ECAs, which are your athletic coaches, your arts stipends, as well as any clubs sponsors there. So that's the breakdown of the $26.9 million for the education fund. The operational fund is the second fund that we're discussing. The budget is set at $8,887,033. It's broken down into the below categories: general administration, $544,000, central office support, $670,000, and a number of things that are within those categories. The overall, or roughly half of the budget, is the operations and maintenance of all of our facilities, including utilities, operational supplies, cleaning, so forth. Transportation is just over $2 million at $2,060,000. The bus replacement, the budget is set at $625,000. You guys have already approved the letter of intent, about $617,000. That leaves a little bit of wiggle room if something were to change, and so forth. So, and then the facilities, constant improvements, whether it be painting, carpet replacements, replacement of doors, upgrades, such and so forth, $841,000, and that's the breakdown of the $8.887 million. The bus replacement plan, as we discussed earlier, is when we trade in 4 12-year-old buses. 2 of them are 84 passenger, 1 72 passenger, and 1 special needs bus. In return, we'll purchase 3 81 passengers and 1 special need bus. Estimated cost $625,000. Again, referring back to the letter of intent, is approximately $617,000. Capital projects plan. These capital projects, not all are budgeted, but are items that are kind of on the radar. They're items that any project that we would be doing that would be paid out of the operations fund in excess of $10,000 is what we have to have listed here. I've listed more things that may not be paid out of the operations fund that will be coming up, such as district network and fiber upgrades. We talked about some of those in the RFPs that you guys approved tonight for advertisement. But a lot of the common stuff, asphalt repairs, roof maintenance, fencing, carpet replacement, door replacement, preschool playground at Avella, looking at possible new bleachers for baseball and softball. And there's a number of them there. These are just kind of highlights. Again, the more information is listed on the DLGF website, as well as the district website as well. Constantly doing district lighting upgrades, upgrading to LED to get a return on investment, save utility costs down the road. More flooring. One thing that you're going to see here in the next couple of years is turf replacement for East Noble High School. It was put in 2010. It was warranted for 10 years. They said we get 12 to 15 out of it. We'll get roughly 15 years by the time we're ready to replace it. This money we've been budgeting along the way, so we wouldn't have to go back to the taxpayers and sell bonds in order to replace it. So we should be able to pay cash for that. Central office backup generator, something we've discussed as well prior to, but we paid out of ESSER funds, not necessarily the operations fund, but just some various projects that are listed in there. The other items that we have to list are any individual items that cost in excess of $10,000. These are for the next 3 years, as the previous slide for the projects. So we have maintenance vehicle on there, scissor lift, mowers, scrubbers, servers, as we've discussed. And you can kind of see the list there for the next 3 years. Again, not all these are necessarily budgeted for, not all these are necessarily going to happen, but in the event that we would find a need or develop a need, we have the ability to possibly do this, assuming we have the cash and the budget available to. The third fund we'll discuss tonight is the debt service fund. The debt service, basically we sold bonds in the amount of $5.155 million to renovate the old bus garage into the new Transportation Technology Center. That was, again, the bonds were sold, the repayment is to be set and completed December of '25. So basically the lease payment or the mortgage payment on that for 2024 is $1,588,874. And the other debt fund we have is for the East Noble Middle School, which is going to be paid off in December of 2033. The payment on that for the year in 2024 is $3,163,000. So an overview of those four funds: the educational fund, $26,962,377. It's up just under $1.3 million, or about 4.95%. The operational fund is an increase of about $420,000, $421,000, about 4.97%. The debt service fund is up a little bit because of the way the payments were, but with that also was a removal of the book rental that was not refunded or not reimbursed from the state for free and reduced lunches and book rental, as well as the $50,000 of anticipated interest if our tax disbursement from the county did not hit on time and we still had to make our payments. We would have to borrow the money. Fortunately, since I've been here, that has not been an issue, so that money is not budgeted there either. And the referendum debt is $1,000 more than last year. So as we talked about earlier, the education fund is supported by the state grant, which is the enrollment of our students. The operational fund is supported by a tax levy along with miscellaneous revenue. The DLGF approved a maximum levy increase for the operations fund of 4% this year. So the maximum levy we will receive from the operations fund is set by the state at $6,705,328. Of that, we anticipate roughly $123,000 to be lost due to the circuit breaker or to the tax caps on the 1%, 2%, and 3% tax caps for whether it be residential, commercial, or farm ground. Along with that, we are allowed to transfer up to 15% of our state grant from the education fund to the operations fund to support those costs that were removed from the educational to operations fund. In the past, we have never come close to the 15%. This current year, we transferred $800,000 from education to operations in the budget for next year. We are trying to reduce that and eventually get it down to zero, but next year we have a need to transfer $200,000 from the education to the operations. So we're getting close, but we still have a little bit to go. So to kind of break down all of the funds together, it's just a little over $40 million. 66% is the educational fund, 22% is the operations fund, and then 12% makes up the debt service funds. All of our taxing rates are also dependent on the assessed valuation. This is a slide here that shows the assessed valuation and how it's grown. Obviously, you can see it kind of ballooning over the last several years, but something that is noted, is taken into consideration by legislators in the DLGF when they're approving all of the budgets and so forth. I don't have the 2024 in there because the information obviously isn't out yet. This just takes our assessed valuation and compares it to area schools. I have Fort Wayne schools and lots of neighboring schools around us. I don't put in Fort Wayne community because anytime you involve them in anything, it really skews all of the data because of their sheer size. But we have, to the left are the three tallest bar graphs there are Fort Wayne, so you have Southwest, Northwest, and East Allen. And then you have Steuben or Angola, and then kind of in the middle, they're roughly the same three there. You have DeKalb Central, Westview, and East Noble, and then you have Lakeland, Prairie Heights, West Noble, Central Noble, and Garrett. So you can see where our assessed valuation kind of rates or compares to other districts around us. The dots really don't mean anything. All that is breaking it down by a per student basis. And not really anything that we're tracking or using for any information. So when you talk about assessed valuations, you have to talk about tax rates because your tax rates are directly affected by your assessed valuation. Assuming the same levy from year to year, if the assessed valuation goes up, the tax rate will go down. If the assessed valuation goes down, the tax rate will go up. It's an inverse effect on that depending on what happens with the assessed valuation. So you can see our tax rates going back to 2014 in the different graphs there and what the total is. For 2023, our total tax rate was about 69 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. The difference in colors are when the state changed from the old funds to the new funds, from the general fund to the education operations and so forth. So just a little bit of a breakdown as to what that looks like for our tax rate. This then takes our tax rate, as I did with assessed valuation, I compared it to the same school corporations that we discussed with the assessed valuation. And sometimes you can notice, like, you know, the direct correlation between assessed valuation and tax rates. Garrett, Kaiser Butler was the lowest assessed valuation, and here they have the highest tax rate. So because they have a low assessed valuation, they still have a need to support their district, so there they are in the highest there. Again, I mentioned we were at 69.1 cents. We are third from the right. The two lower than us are Angola and Lakeland. The different colors represent, the red represents the operation referendums, the construction referendums, which would be our East Omaha Middle School, and the only other school that has a construction referendum is Northwest Allen. The blue represents operational referendums, which would support typically the education fund. Many times those are done to increase salaries and benefits for primarily certified staff, typically. There are three corporations that have that. Southwest, Allen, Westview, and Prairie Heights currently have those operational referendum debt. We are East Omaha School Corporation. There's a lot of time and effort put into this by many individuals. I happen to be the speaker for it tonight. It is a big part of my position. I take a lot of pride and time and value in this because the reason why we all do it is for that right there. It's for the kids that we serve. So that is the presentation of the 2024 budget. I've also read all of this with you in your small groups or individually. At this time, I'll take questions.
I don't have any questions.
If there are no questions, we will close the public hearing on the 2024 budget and resume the regular business meeting. The last item under business is action to deem items obsolete and sell on eBay. Board, you received a list in your packet. We ask that you deem those obsolete so we can move forward with either selling or disposing of them in the most cost-effective manner.
I would make a motion to present or to approve as presented.
I'll second.
As far as the selling the eBay items, Mr. Truelove has made a motion to approve as presented, seconded by Mr. Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, that brings us down to discussion items.
Yes, this evening, we will be discussing the tentative contract agreement between East Omaha School Corporation and the Education Association. We'll invite Mr. Barber to come up, as he is the president of the association, and he will take one of our seats. And board, Mr. Leash is gonna spell out what we agreed upon, and feel free to ask any questions as we go through this. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Board. This is the tentative agreement meeting, as Dr. Grimo said. And the association, ENEA, as well as school administration spent some time in June, some time in July, doing some informal negotiations, kind of working a lot of the kinks, discussions, and so forth. And then the first day that we were allowed to negotiate was September 15th. We held our public hearing to gather input on the new contract, and then after that, we then spent some time kind of finalizing things. So this is the tentative agreement for a 2-year contract starting July 1, 2023, and running through June 30th, 2025. We had the public hearing on September 15th, as I mentioned. Anticipated ratification by ENEA is October 11th, 10th, sorry. And then the anticipated school board approval will be October 18th, 2023. There was a couple of changes in titles underneath the definition of a teacher. One of them being mine, going from business manager to chief finance and operations officer, and a couple of others. I made a few minor corrections to comply with Herb's contract review of the previous contract. And then it's also anticipated that pending board ratification and board approval, then retro pay will be paid to those affected on or about the first pay in November. So the first year of the contract, which will be the 23-24 contract year, it was negotiated and come to tentative agreement to have a salary increase for certified staff of 5 steps, a total of $3,325, with a base salary increase for a new teacher to $45,565, and also increase the top of the pay for a teacher to $78,815. This contract will consist of 183 contract days. The pay will remain as they are now. Currently, the first and the third Fridays of the month, starting on August 18th, 2023. Hourly rates will be calculated on 8 hours per day, and a one-time master stipend was increased to $3,000 from $2,000. If there's anything you want to add along the way, please feel free, Charlie.
You're doing a good job.
In year 2 of the contract, it was negotiated and tentative agreement came to a base salary increase of 2 steps, or $1,330, increasing our base salary pay for a new teacher to $46,895, and increase the top of the pay to $80,145. This contract will consist of 185 contract days, allowing some time for teachers to spend in their classroom, as well as additional professional development. The pay dates will be the 5th and the 20th of each month. Starting on August 20th will be the first day of the new contract. We will adjust the pay dates in July for all staff moving forward as well. So we also discussed our health insurance premiums. We were paying a certain dollar amount, and then we negotiated a split in the premium increases of 50-50. We have removed that language and went to a flat percentage rate for both the traditional and the high deductible plans. We increased the severance pay and buyback of unused sick days. So for severance pay, we increased the last year's service to $250, and then increased the unpaid or the unused sick days and personal days to $100 from $70. We also increased the the background check reimbursement. The state requires us to have background checks every 5 years. That was an unfunded mandate a few years ago, and we had in our contract, and we reimbursed up to $25 for those background checks outside of the initial pre-employment. The costs have increased a little bit, so we increased that to reimbursement up to $35, and then there were several ECA additions, deletions, and adjustments. So that's kind of an overview of what we've tentatively agreed upon. Again, anticipating ratification October 10th and board approval on October 18th. Are there any questions from the board? No? I'd like to say that I appreciate working with ENEA through this negotiation process. While there's definitely some conversations that take place back and forth, I am proud of what we've come to a resolution with. I think it really supports our staff and then turns into support for our students and our families. So thank you, Charlie, and your group for participating.
And I would like to say this is our first time that we worked with Dr. Grimaud through the whole process, because she was hired in the midst of our process 2 years ago, and Mrs. Linson did a good job of laying foundation with Mr. Leach's help. And so, again, working with Dr. Corris and Dr. Grimaud and Mr. Leach, it was a very smooth process. We actually laughed at times.
Good to know.
Didn't get any cookies, but I did tonight.
I brought you the cookies
Thank
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, next on the item is late items. Is there any late items? No late items, okay, then we'll go to comments from the superintendent. Dr. Grimaud?
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to explain the process for board policy adoption. There are always 2 readings, and board, you're aware of this, that typically that was happening in a work session. It was an open session, so that would have been reading number 1. Sometimes they get 3 readings, because we'll go back and look at it again and redo it and read it again. But there's always a minimum of 2, and the second reading is always when you are adopting it as board policy. So, which is also in an open meeting. I just wanna say to Mr. Rice, if you felt like I was calling you a liar, I apologize, because that was not my intent in any way. My intent was to make sure people did understand that there were documents available. It had nothing to do with you being a liar, so my apologies if that's what you felt like.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Also, the next thing was, there was a statement about we are in violation of the law, and I just wanna make sure I reiterate again that we have always vetted things through our attorneys to make sure that we are not doing something that is illegal. As you all have taken an oath to follow the law, and I will always make sure that I am following the law. In this book that has been in question for quite some time, it is in an elective class. Students have an option to either
No.
take it, even if they
No.
are in the class, they can ask for an alternative assignment, and they could change courses. So no one is made to read this book. So we made sure that was very clear when we went through that process. Mr. Lynch, thank you for all of your work on the budget. Really appreciate it. It takes time to do all of that. There's a lot of work that's involved. Also, again, thanks to ENEA for courteous and quick negotiations. It was great. Want to remind everyone that on September 29th, next Friday, we do have a professional development day. We will not have students in attendance that day, so our teachers can do a lot of learning. October 2nd is the beginning of fall break. So we're very excited about that. I'm sure the staff is counting down the days, and we hope that they have a nice restful break. And I gotta say it again, October 11th is our State of the Corporation address, and we really would like everyone to be there that can be there. So please come on out. We appreciate that.
Is that it? Okay, thank you, Dr. Grimeau. Next is comments or questions from the board. Board members, any comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Yes, Ms. Blackman.
I will say this to Faye and Doug when they return, but I'm very proud of us for the things that we've done for the East Noble School Corporation. We have passed things, we have listened to public input through here at the meetings, and I'm proud to serve with all of you. We've made great decisions for our students here, and I appreciate each one of you for having to tolerate disrespect as you lay out rules and suggestions that, or policy that is supposed to take place. But I'm very proud of our reactions or non-reactions to the way that we've been treated. So I really appreciate all of you guys. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, board members? Okay, I would like to make one. Mr. Pine, I would like to thank you for your comments a month ago. They were spot on. They should have been said a while ago, and sometimes it's tough to take. We have been called racist, we have been called groomers, and several other things over the past several months.
Not in here, you haven't.
People definitely
Liar.
do not.
I've had every meeting recorded.
Order.
I've every meeting
Order,
recorded.
Mr. Carpenter. You do not
have it
have the
recorded.
floor.
Speak the
You
truth.
do not have the floor, Mr. Carpenter.
Told them the
I am
truth.
speaking the truth.
No, you're
No,
not.
Please,
you're
order,
not.
order.
I have every
Order.
meeting recorded.
You're out of order, Mr. Carpenter.
You're out of order. You're out of order. Can you please
Gentlemen,
clarify,
Gentlemen,
please?
you're disrupting this meeting.
You are.
We are going to finish up this meeting. It's our time now.
Then tell the truth,
So
Brent.
thank you
Tell
for
the
your
truth,
comments. We have
liar.
been called
Please
those
clarify.
things. They are documented. I have written them down. They've been in minutes.
We're gonna kick you out.
So thank you very much for your comments. At this time, we will adjourn this meeting. The board will meet in executive session immediately following per Indiana code to discuss a job performance evaluation of individual employees. The next regular board meeting will be Wednesday, October 18th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at this administration office. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Yeah, we can talk.
Every meeting recorded, you never call the name.